What's going on? It's Dr. Gonzo Boogie here again, back for another video, and this is actually going to be part 1 in a multi-part video series where I go through and show you guys my entire horror Blu-ray collection. And in part 1 here, I'm going to show you guys my entire Scream Factory collection, which I've gotten a lot of Scream Factories over the months that I've been collecting Blu-rays. I've actually only been collecting Blu-rays since like early on in the summer is when I picked up my Blu-ray player, and I had picked up a few combo DVD packs before that, but basically I've been collecting Blu-rays just since the summer, so I haven't gotten too many yet, so I thought this was a good time to shoot a video before I had too many horror Blu-rays to even make a video like this, showing you guys all the ones that I have. So I thought this was a perfect time to show you guys all of my horror Blu-rays up to date. So like I said, I'm going to start off with the Scream Factory releases, and in part 2, I'm actually going to go through and show you guys my releases from Grindhouse, Arrow Video, Blue Underground, Anchor Bay, and Synapse. So that one should be up, if not later this week, probably next week. I'll post that video up where I show you guys those, and then I think there's going to be a third, maybe even a fourth part to this video, but let me get going here and show you guys the Scream Factory releases I have. First off here, going to start off with the Halloween box set. Really awesome box set here. This is the smaller release. This is the 10-disc release. There's a bigger 15-disc set release that has all the movies in separate cases, but I was actually really happy with picking this one up, and over time I have to say I'm really glad that I did. I just really like this box set. It's a nice little small set with all the Halloween movies remastered for Blu-ray. Really cool. The only thing that I think makes the other set a ton better is that they're all in their own separate cases with the original artwork, which I always love. And also it came with the producer's cut of Halloween 6, which is the first time I ever got a release on DVD or Blu-ray was with Scream Factory's 15-disc set. So I was a little bummed that this smaller set didn't include that, but I have since then picked up the separate Blu-ray copy of Halloween 6, the producer's cut, so I'm not as worried about that anymore as I once was when I first picked this set up. So I think this is a really cool set, and I'll show you guys what the separate cases inside look, because I think that the artwork is pretty cool on these. This is the one for Halloween 6 all the way up to the Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So this is really cool. And then this set, which I think looks really, really awesome, comes with the first 5 Halloween movies. And I just really like the way that this set, the cover was set up here. I just think it looks really awesome. I think they could have released this set separate too, and a lot of people would have bought it because it's really nice, in my opinion. So that was the Halloween box set. So now let's move on to the special editions. These are all the Scream Factory releases that I have that are special editions with slip covers. I figured I would go through those ones first. First off here, we have Escape from New York, classic John Carpenter film. This is one of my favorite movies from him. Just can't go wrong with this. Just a fun, awesome, badass movie. Next up here, we have George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, one of my all-time favorite zombie movies ever, and probably one of my favorite Scream Factory releases in the collection. Love Scream Factory, love the artwork they do on all their releases, the special features, they're just awesome. Probably the best company releasing horror movies right now, even though there's a lot of companies now that are putting out collector's editions or special editions of kind of obscure horror movies, so it's a great time right now to be collecting weird horror movies. The Army of Darkness Collector's Edition. This is the 3-disc Collector's Edition, and I know a lot of people had problems, like technical issues, with the theatrical version of this, so that's one thing that really stinks about this release, but other than that, this is a really awesome release of one of my favorite horror movies ever. Love the Evil Dead series. Next up, I have all the Sleepaway Camp movies. Sleepaway Camp, I love this movie, one of my favorite slasher movies. I would say 80s slasher movies that take place at a camp are some of my favorite horror movies ever. And after Friday the 13th, the Sleepaway Camp series I think is number 2. Sleepaway Camp 2, which this is actually probably my favorite in the series, even though it's a lot cheesier and campier. No pun intended there, I guess, but just awesome. Can't go wrong with this. I love Sleepaway Camp 2. Sleepaway Camp 3, made by the same director as the second one, and it was filmed around the same time. I think this one is a little bit harder to get into than the second one for me. It's not as funny, I don't think, and I just think it's almost a little bit too cheesy, but I do love the third one also, just not as much as the second one. Night of the Demons, love this movie, one of my favorite 80s horror movies. It has that same vibe as Return of the Living Dead, and that is also one of my favorite horror movies ever. Night of the Demons, classic Halloween party movie too. That's one that you have to watch around Halloween time. It's just such an awesome one. The People Under the Stairs from Wes Craven. Pretty cool movie here. Not one of my favorite Wes Craven movies, but this has grown on me over time. Clive Barker's Nightbreed. Really cool here. Probably my second favorite Clive Barker movie after Hellraiser, of course. And another Clive Barker release, Lord of Illusions, which I thought was really good too. This was actually the first time I had ever seen this. Is when I picked this Blu-ray up, and just a really weird, strange, interesting movie. Highly recommend this one if you guys are Clive Barker fans. Alright, and then next up I'm just going to go through and show you guys all my other Scream Factory releases, the non-collector's editions with the slip covers. First off here, we have The Town That Dreaded Sundown. I just recently watched this one. This is probably one of my newest additions to my Scream Factory collection. And this movie was just awesome. Just a really raw, classic 70s example of a slasher movie. And it has that like fake documentary style here, which almost reminds me of like the reenactments on Unsolved Mysteries. So I just had a lot of fun watching this one. Great stuff here. Next up here is Night of the Comet, and just like Night of the Demons, this is one of my all-time favorite 80s horror movies. This is just a lot of fun, and it also has a similar vibe as Return of the Living Dead does, so I just love watching this one. This is probably one of my all-time favorite Scream Factory releases too. Okay, next up here, John Carpenter presents Body Bags. Can't go wrong with this one. This is a really fun horror anthology that had John Carpenter directing a few skits and Tobe Hooper directing one too. So this was really awesome. Highly enjoyed this release here. Next up here, another Tobe Hooper film, Invaders from Mars. This is pretty good. Not my favorite Tobe Hooper movie, but this is a remake of a classic sci-fi movie, and I would say you could put this all like in the same category as some of the other 80s remakes of classic sci-fi movies like The Blob and John Carpenter's The Thing and The Fly from David Cronenberg, even though I don't think this is as good as any of those movies, but this was still kind of fun. Next up here is Scarecrows. This is a pretty cool slasher movie, I guess you can say. I think this was late 80s or early 90s, and this was a lot of fun. Mad Max, which I've actually still never gotten around to watching. I picked this one up around the time the newer Mad Max movie came out, because I went and saw that with my friend Mike in theaters, so I was kind of pumped up about Mad Max at the time, so I picked this one up because I had actually never seen the first Mad Max movie, and I've still never seen it, so this one I definitely got to get around to checking out one of these days. And then next up here I have some 2-packs. This is Scanners 2 and Scanners 3. I love these movies. I'm actually a huge David Cronenberg fan, and Scanners is one of my favorite movies from him, and I've always liked that it became its own movie series. There's like 4 sequels to it, which I just think is kind of funny because Scanners isn't that big of a movie, so it's funny that it got so many sequels. Most of them were straight to video. I think both of these were, but these have that 80s straight to video cheesy vibe to them, and I just have a lot of fun watching these. I would say Scanners 2, The New Order, is probably the best out of all the Scanners sequels, but Scanners 3, The Takeover, was real cheesy and fun too. It has some of the cheesiest scanner battles ever. If you guys have ever seen any of the Scanners movies, they battle using mind powers, and I would say it works in the right, if you do it the right way. Like David Cronenberg made it seem real serious when they were having scanner fights and battles in the first one. The second one did a pretty good job in it, but by the time they got to the third one, they started to look pretty corny. So, you know, that's kind of fun, though, actually, to see the cheesy scanner battle. So, you know, can't go wrong with that. Scanners 2 and 3, though, this is actually another one of my all-time favorite Scream Factory releases. Next up here, we have Ghost House and Witchery, and these are two Italian horror movies, if I remember. And these were actually both pretty cool. I thought Ghost House was really good, and Witchery was just okay, if I can remember right. And I think both of these movies were released like in Italy as La Casa 3 and 4, which makes them somewhat sequels to the Evil Dead movies in a way, because the Evil Dead 1 and 2 were released in Italy as La Casa 1 and 2. So really weird because these have nothing to do with Evil Dead, but they're kind of possessed house movies, so kind of has that sort of vibe going for it. But these were cool. Next up here, we have Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. This is actually another pack that I still haven't gotten around to watching yet, so I've never seen the two Ghoulies movies, but I've been recommended to check these out a dozen times, so I definitely plan on getting around and watching these sooner than later. Then last up for the 2-packs is the Food of the Gods and Frogs 2-pack, which is pretty cool. I've seen Frogs. I got that one on DVD. I have yet to watch the Blu-ray of it, and the Food of the Gods is another one that I haven't seen yet, so eventually I'll have to pop that one in and check it out too. It's based on an H.G. Wells story, which I'm a big fan of H.G. Wells stories, so I definitely want to check that one out. And then last for this video is my only Hammer release from Scream Factory, and this is the Vampire Lovers. And I actually just picked this one up a couple weeks ago, so this is another one of my newest additions to my Scream Factory collection, and just an awesome, awesome release. Some of my favorite artwork and design layout on any of their releases. I just really like the way the colors, the pink, and everything on this, I just think looks really cool. Even the artwork inside of this, I'll show you guys, I just think looks really awesome. I don't know if you guys can see that really good, but just awesome. Just one of my favorite Blu-ray releases in my collection. Alright, so that was it for part 1 of this video, where I show you guys my Scream Factory Blu-ray collection. But like I said, this is going to be a multi-part video, and part 2 I'll be showing you guys my Grindhouse releases, my Blue Underground, my Anchor Bay, and my Synapse releases. Oh, and my Arrow video releases too. So that'll be another really cool video, and like I said earlier in this one, I might be able to get that one up later this week. If not, that'll probably be up next week. So if you guys enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up or leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in part 2.